Hello everyone! So today I have my EDH deck, Omnath, Locus, and Mana to show you. This has been my top selling deck on Nonstop MTG on eBay since I started selling decks in December. I actually built a mill combo into this that can kill multiple other players by forcing them to discard their deck all at once. So it's actually really good. And I'll explain how that works later in this video once I get through describing everything else that comes in the deck. So to start off, you've got your commander, Omnath, Locus of Mana. And this is a great commander. I love this guy because he's a great beat stick because he gets bigger for every green mana in your mana pool. So if you've got 10 mana in your mana pool with his base 1/1, he's an 11/11. And you can make him really big really early in the game. So my first line of thinking with building this deck was to put in lots of ramps. So I've got lots of green mana production here, and I have creatures, and I have cards that search for lands as well. So I've got, just to name a few of the cards I've got here, Caged Sun, essentially doubles your mana from your lands. You get an extra green mana. You've got Lotus Cobra. Whenever a land enters play under your control, you can add an extra mana of any color to your mana pool. Frontier Siege. This is a great card. Very undervalued. During each one of your main phases, you can get 2 green mana out of this. That'll give you up to 4 mana in a turn. Greenweaver Druid. Tap to add 2 green mana to your mana pool, solid for 3 mana. Nature's Lore. Just search your library for a forest card, put it directly into play. One step better than Rampant Growth. Llanowar Elves. Great turn 1 card. And Sky Shroud Claim. It's 2 Nature's Lores. You get 2 forests into play untapped. So once you've gotten all this ramp out, you can just start hitting your opponents in the first few turns. After that, though, they're generally going to be throwing down some chump blockers. So that brings me to my next section of cards. Things that make Omnath evasive or trample through from damage. So I've got Loxodon Warhammer. Equipped creature gets +3/+0, has trample and lifelink. Great card. Whisper Silk Cloak. It makes your creature unblockable. It also gives it Shroud. Protection is great so that Omnath can't get kill spelled. Canopy Cover. Same idea as Whisper Silk Cloak. Can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach, and it can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Hexproof. And I've got a few more cards there. Next section I put in here was a couple more on top of Whisper Silk Cloak and Canopy Cover. Protection cards so that your opponents have a harder time beating Omnath and putting him into the graveyard or the command zone. So I've got Swiftfoot Boots, also gives it haste, that's good. There's a couple of hasty cards in here. And Asceticism, gives all your creatures hexproof, and you can regenerate them for a green and a mana of any color. So then I've just got some removal. Spine is of Ishsa. Got Scour from Existence, instant speed, exile a permanent. Great card for EDH. A fight creature. You make Omnath or any big creature you've got fight a creature an opponent controls. You've got a bunch of stuff here. Got 3 fog cards because you've basically just got Omnath and a bunch of mana dorks. So you're really not able to defend yourself with creatures, so these fog cards are important, especially with the card draw that comes in later. So we've got Moment's Peace. You can play it, prevent all combat damage, then play it again with a flashback. Tangle, Fog, and then attacking creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. And Spikeweaver. It comes into play with 3 +1/1 counters. You can pay 1 mana of any color and remove 1 to fog that turn, so you get 3 fogs out of it. They're all great because you essentially get 2 or, 3 fogs out of each one of these cards. The Tangle just locks your opponent's creatures down, so they're effectively out of the mix for another turn. Then I've got a little bit of card draw. Seer's Sundial, just thrown in there. And a few of these land fetches, so searchers rather. Those are always good to have, and they can get you your nice utility lands that I put into the deck. So I've got Phyrexia's Core. You can combine that with Spine of Ishsa to repeatedly bring that back and repeatedly destroy permanents, because when Spine goes to your graveyard, it goes back to your hand. So that'll trigger off a Spine, and you've got Rogue's Passage, more unblockability for Omnath, Temple of the False God, a little bit of extra mana. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. This is a great card for ramping. Get a lot of mana out of this, especially with the amount of green devotion that's in this deck from all those green creatures. Homeward Path. It's a great defense against blue decks and decks that try to take control of your creatures, because if you lose Omnath, then you're in trouble, because he's your win condition. Reliquary Tower, no max hand size, just good for EDH. And then on to the combo. So the combo in this deck works by constantly drawing lots of cards, untapping your creatures and lands, and then recurring these effects. So basically you use these effects to draw through your whole deck. And so how that works is, so say you start with an early harvest. It says untap all basic lands target player controls. So you can untap all your forests with this. Say you're several turns into the game, that's going to give you several extra mana. It's not uncommon for Omnath to be, say, a 15-15 or 16-16 around about this time when you get one of these cards off. And then what you do is you play one of these mass card draw effects, and they all say about the same thing. It says draw cards equal to the power of target creature you control. So you use that on Omnath when he's like a 15 power, then 14 floating mana, then you'd be drawing 15 cards. So then you draw into your cards, and what you do is you play these recursion cards like Restock, and you return a couple of cards from your graveyard to your hand. You get back the Soul's Majesty to draw more cards, and then you get back Early Harvest, so you get back a Vitalize to untap all your creatures. I'll show you that for a second. Untap all creatures you control for 1 green mana, instant speed. Or you untap all your lands again. You make more mana, you draw more cards, you keep doing that until you draw out your entire deck almost. And then once you've done that, you get Omnath up to like 80 or 90 power. And then you just cast either where'd that go? Overwhelming Stampede, somewhere in here. Yeah, there it is. Alright, you cast Overwhelming Stampede, and if Omnath is 80 power, for example, then you'll be powering up all your creatures by 80. And so then you can either just trample them all down, trample all your opponent's creatures down, and go for lethal damage. Or if you don't draw into the Overwhelming Stampede, or they fog you out, then what you do is you play Altar of Dementia. Now, Altar of Dementia says you sacrifice a creature, and target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So with Overwhelming Stampede, you use that and sack off all your creatures to make all your opponents discard their whole decks. Or you just use that with Omnath over and over again. And so say he's an 80-80, and you sack him to Altar, make somebody mill 80, and then you put him back into the command zone when you sack him, and you replay him for 5 mana if you've only cast him once that game. You go down to 74 floating mana, and then you can sack him off again to alter, make somebody middle 75 cards, and you can just keep recasting him and doing that over and over again until you've milled out all your opponents. So that concludes my explanation of my Omnath, Locus, and Mana EDH deck. If you like this deck and you'd like to try it out, then I have it available for sale at Nonstop MTG on eBay. I have more info about that in the description on this page. And make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.